Hey, welcome back to another chapter in the rebuilding of the Western Flyer. I'm Chris Chase with the Western Flyer Foundation, and this is episode 25 in this series. It's been following the rebuilding of the boat for almost 2 years now. It's kind of hard for me to believe that I've done 25 of these, but in this episode, we're going to be looking at two different parts of the boat that the crew's been working on. Jordan and Ryan have been working on the caps on the bulwarks on the aft deck, and Tim and Pete Rust have been working on covering boards and starting the bulwarks on the foredeck. But before we get any further into the episode, I thought I'd try to explain, in a working boat in the Pacific Northwest, the decks often have a very distinctive break in that deck line. Not the shear line, but the deck line. In the case of the Western Flyer, the aft working deck, the main part of the boat's deck, actually steps up onto the foredeck about 30 feet back from the stem head. It steps up almost 30 inches onto that foredeck. So that's a real loose definition of what we're calling the aft deck and the foredeck. So in this episode, it's bulwark caps and covering boards. But the other thing I want to start doing in all of these episodes is start to answer some of the questions I get in the comment box a little bit more in depth and in the words of the shipwrights working on the project. So I just recently got an email from someone asking me, what is the mortgage stripe? So I thought I'd try to explain it. There's no real defined explanation, but we've always kind of had a loose explanation of what it is. So in this episode, let's look at what they've been working on and let's try to explain the mortgage stripe. Why do they call it the mortgage stripe?
I learned that it was a mortgage stripe.
Well, my understanding of the mortgage stripe is that it was
I'm going to tell you the same answer Tim told me.
when the company that built the boat.
I didn't even know it was called that until this project, so.
Because boats were frequently partially owned.
When the company that built the boat owned a portion of it, it was painted a color
Financed the boat, got to pick the color.
related to the shop.
It's actually called a money stripe.
And then when the boat was paid off, the mortgage stripe would get painted a different color, signifying that the boat was owned free and clear by the fishermen.
I believe it's when the boat was first built.
A boat was owned by both the company that built the boat and the boat owner.
Until that boat is originally paid off, it's a different color, and then once you pay it off, you can paint it a different color. Ooh, I don't really know.
There you have it, 7 variations of the same story from 7 different shipwrights. But I think it's probably pretty close to the truth. It's not really written down anywhere. And if some viewer out there has a better answer, definitely put it in the comment box. But I think it rings true. The Western Boat Building Company built the Western Flyer, and they were part owners in the boat with Tony Berry, the skipper and owner of the boat, all the way up to the point that he sold that boat in the late 1940s. So it kind of seems like it's a true story that the boatyard that built the boat often had a stake in the boat, and they got to paint it their proprietary color until the owner of the boat paid off the mortgage against the boat. But anyway, let's get on with the video. There are definitely a few ways to build a deck on a wooden boat. One way would be a completely traditional caulked laid deck, and the second would be a full plywood and fiberglass deck. The way we've chosen to rebuild the Flyer is a hybrid of the two, plywood with an overlay in the main field and a traditional covering board running along the edge.
Yeah, I know every time I touched anything on that boat, it was...
The covering board is that outermost timber on a wood boat deck. It creates the deck connection to the hull, and it builds the solid foundation for the bulwarks above. It also helps to define the shear line, that long, sweeping line of infinity that draws the eye to the deck edge. There's no one real view that defines the shape of a boat. It's a combination of all the lines working together to form that pleasing three-dimensional object. might be a good time to note. The thinner the patterning material is, the easier it is to bend, but that also means the easier it is to bend out of shape. If you're patterning something with a minimal amount of shape, I recommend using a thicker patterning material. 1/4-inch door skin seems to be a nice compromise. As your eye moves around a boat, it's hard for your eye to settle on a single edge. The shapes are continually moving, rising to the bow or to the stern, or curving across the deck. It's a blend of every timber, plank, and frame that produces what a boat builder calls a fair hull. That intersection of the plank edge to the deck beam ends will build the foundation for the bulwarks. So extreme amount of care is taken at this step to ensure any imperfections from the hull won't telegraph up into the bulwarks and ultimately into the finished shear line. The builder takes extra care to work out any of these imperfections left from the planking or the deck beam installation. Once the builder sees a line they're happy with, patterns can be made. For this type of patterning, 1/4-inch door skin works well. If you spend much time in a boat shop, sooner or later you'll see a builder lean back on their heels, dart their head side to side, sighting down a long batten or the edge of a board. The builder is looking for any imperfections in the line, a hump or a small flat spot, something that will spoil the final look of the boat. It could be said, when a builder looks down a fairing batten, they see the finished boat in front of them. I've often told want-to-be boat builders, boat school can teach you how to pattern and cut out a plank. It can teach you how to cut a dovetail or sharpen your block plane, but seeing a boat in 3 dimensions from a single line can take a lifetime. With the patterns in hand, the rough wood can be milled down to the final thickness and the cutting and shaping can begin. Like on the working deck, we opted to use a Rocco for the covering board. A Rocco is a highly rot-resistant tropical hardwood from Western Africa. The combination of its durability and golden color, a Rocco is sometimes referred to as African teak. But be forewarned, if you decide to cut into a board of a Rocco, it does have one downside. Not all, but some people have very adverse reactions to the airborne dust. Respiratory or skin irritations are not uncommon. I personally have a terrible reaction to a Rocco. If I cut into a board, I immediately go into an asthmatic arrest, and I don't suffer from asthma. Luckily, Tim, the shipwright who did most of the covering board work on the Flyer, suffered no real side effects from the Rocco, just a bit of a scratchy throat at the end of each day. The covering board patterns were made full length and full size for both the port and starboard. One of the big advantages of taking the time to make such detailed and accurate patterns is it allowed all of the timbers to be cut out simultaneously, adding speed and efficiency to the job. With all of the components made, 2 shipwrights could quickly and easily install them. The actual installation only took a few days. But before any wood is permanently installed, a thick layer of red lead was applied to each surface as a paint barrier between the covering board, the shear plank, and the beam ends. The number of fasteners used, a combination of number 20 by 4-inch silicon bronze screws and stainless steel lags, may look excessive, but remember, the covering board is holding the deck to the boat's hull, and that's not a joint on your boat you want to fail. I know I'll get some comments about mixing stainless steel and bronze, and if it was happening below the waterline, we definitely have an issue with electrolysis. But in woods above the waterline, particularly new wood, there's not enough moisture in the wood to create a galvanic situation, so the mixed metals don't present a problem. And to answer a comment made a few episodes back, warning about stainless steel pit corrosion is an issue with stainless steel when it's starved of oxygen, and this can be a real problem when stainless steel is used below the waterline. But above the waterline, even buried in wood, there's no danger as long as you're using a high-quality stainless steel. Bulwark caps on a working boat take a lot of abuse in their daily life. Nets being drug across them, crab pots getting dropped, and although the next chapter in the Flyer's life shall see plenty of days of hard work, the Bulwark caps won't ever see the same amount of wear and tear as they did in her previous life. This gave us options for wood. Historically, caps and guards on a working boat were made from an extremely hard wood called ironbark. Ironically, ironbark is one of the only woods I know that doesn't float in water. In North America, ironbark hasn't been readily available for nearly 30 years, leaving Purple Heart as a standard go-to replacement. Unfortunately, the size and quantity of Purple Heart needed wasn't readily available, so the shipyard opted to use sapele for the Bulwark caps. It was locally available from Edensaw. It came in the needed sizes and lengths. It's durable and relatively easy to work. Like when patterning the covering boards, 1/4-inch plywood patterns were made full size and full length. And just like when patterning the covering boards, the full-size patterns allowed the shipwrights to cut out all of the timbers off the boat at the same time, creating a level of work efficiency and saving time. Even though the finished caps will get painted black as they were originally, there's still a lot of care taken into the cutting and the fitting of the joints. Tight joints, either in a painted surface, oiled or varnished, always helps keep the water from sitting between the boards, which we all know leads to trouble.
A little bit over here.
Hey, that's it, the end of another episode here at the Western Flyer channel. And I snuck down here to the beach to film this little closer because it was just such a beautiful early fall evening here in the Northwest. I'm down here on the Marestone Island, the point of the island with the lighthouse behind me. And I think you can almost see Mount Baker right there in the background. It's one of those dormant volcanoes that the Northwest is so famous for. But anyway, there's a lot of great stuff coming up in the real near future with the wood boat scene here on this channel and the whole Pacific Northwest. The virtual Wooden Boat Festival starts on September 12th here in the Northwest, and I'll put a link in the description below so you can grab tickets to that. They're a couple of bucks, but it gives you access to the immediate content on September 12th, but then you get access to all the great content all the way through the month of September. So quite a few nice long 25-30 minute vignettes about the wood boat scene around the Northwest and actually a little bit around the world. So anyway, until next episode, thanks again for watching.
Why do they call it a mortgage stripe? Are you serious?
Yeah.
You gotta ask me the question before you turn the camera on next time.